I'll just make a few observations. I mean, the first thing I want to do, I want to honor my elder, William Commanda, and the Douglas Cardinal, who I continue to work with, and the traditional Algonquin grandmothers that I'm working with. And thank them for their guidance and support. And I'm going to do something a bit different, and hopefully it resonates with you and introduces you to some of the topics that we seek to speak about in the future. This particular full moon is known as a festival in the cosmos. The festival is the Festival of Ascension. I'm going to be doing a seminar on death and resurrection on Good Friday. I think between 2 and 4, we're going to have a seminar on death and resurrection. And so a lot of what we're going to do tonight is going to be contemplative and meditative, and partly guided and in the first part, and then the second part will be a silent meditation of all of us for 15 minutes. And then I'll end with certain prayers that have been given to us by Willaroo and the Inca. You'll notice that the word esoteric appeared in the announcement speaking to this. And I thought it interesting to look up the word because it's quite misused. Esoteric sometimes is used in a derogatory way to, really basically brand people with the idea that they may be woo-woo or something. But the meaning of esoteric, the dictionary meaning of esoteric is inner, secret, mysterious, taught to a select few. It's a term to signify a teaching intended only for the initiated and intelligible only to them. So really, bottom line is that esoteric teaching comes from a deep source. It comes from a long history of sacred texts being given to humanity. And therein you'll find esotericism. In other words, the real meaning behind the spiritual teachings that were brought to humanity. So I just wanted to touch on that concept. I also wanted to say that tonight, this evening, is the pink moon. And the pink moon comes from Northern Native American lore and tradition. And it signifies rebirth and renewal. It actually portends to brighter times ahead, following the end of dark months of winter. A Cherokee elder put it this way: the pink moon brings the stability and security to crystallize recent changes and make them permanent improvements. I just wanted to reflect on the Four Noble Truths of Buddha. And Buddha's Four Noble Truths are the truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path that leads to the end of suffering. So when we think of the aphorism, energy follows thought, what we think is who we are. And if you contemplate those Four Noble Truths of Buddha, they're really applicable in the time that we're in. The truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path that leads to the end of suffering. This is really the exercise that we're engaged in right now. We're engaged in the exercise of trying to put ourselves into a situation of understanding what this suffering is essentially about. Before I go into the meditative aspect of this that I wanted to do at the beginning, I want to bring your attention to a book that I highly recommend that is very uplifting for humanity at this point in time. It's a book from India, and I'd say for the last 2 months, probably, for the last 2 months, I've been immersed in reading all sorts of Swami books, Bhagavad Gita, Hindu scriptures, and it's been mind-boggling in terms of the things that I've been reading. But one in particular I highly recommend to your attention, and it's called A Goddess Among Us, The Divine Life of Ananda Mayi Ma. It's written by Swami Magalananda, and it chronicles the life of this woman who was born in India in 1896 and who passed out of her bodily vehicle into the spirit world in 1982. Her real name was Nirmala Sundari Devi, which means the goddess of flawless beauty. Now, I'm recommending this book to you because it speaks to the Divine Mother. It speaks to the energy of the Divine Mother, which from my perspective is the energy that will assist all humanity in this time of challenge. Most of the teachings that I'm going to refer to and touch on, I honor my teacher in Cusco, Peru, Willaru Waita. So a lot of what you're going to hear are Inca teachings, and we touch upon matters that deal with our knowing of Willaru, the knowing of him and the wisdom that he imparts, and the concepts of the Inca teachings, which will be gone into over time as we do seminars, we do further meditations. So the very first meditation, this part is going to be me reading something to you, but me asking you to close your eyes during the time that I read this. Susan introduced me to a very important concept. She said, you know, you want to read things to me, but I like to visualize. And so when you're reading things to me, it's hard if I'm not in a position to visualize. And I thought, wow, that's really excellent, because what I wanted to do was read something to everyone, but at the same time, knowing that the best way for this to sink in and for it to take hold is for everyone to visualize. And so I thought what would happen is when I start this guided meditation, which is a reading, the whole thing is a reading, that you would close your eyes, and the visualization that you would have would be Machu Picchu. And I don't know, I expect most of you have seen an image of Machu Picchu. And I hope that's true for everyone, but let's just say it's that beautiful place in the Sacred Valley in Peru. And it's really the place of initiation for Willaru.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do with you now is I'm going to share with you something that opened my eyes back in 1993 when I first came upon this article written by Willaru Waita. And before we go into it, I'm just going to read to you the introduction that was placed on this article that's called The Awakening. And it said, Willaru Waita is an Incan spiritual messenger from Cusco, Peru. Born a Quechua Indian, he learned to receive esoteric truth during his spiritual quest in the Amazon jungle. A few years ago, he was asked to travel to the big city Cusco as a chasqui, which means spiritual messenger, for the Great White Brotherhood, with messages pertaining to the transitional times in which we live. Now, appreciate that I came upon this article in 1993, so this is something that Willaru wrote in the early 90s. And I am amazed at how pertinent it is to what we're going to do today. So I'd ask you all to mute your microphones and be in a position to sit comfortably, close your eyes, and listen to the words that I'm about to speak. Today, after 2,000 years, the sun is rising. Its rays bring health, purity, and wisdom for the healing of all humanity. The ancient Andean people, the Incas, followed the laws of Mother Nature, Pachamama, and the Great Spirit Creator, Pachacamac. They knew the sun to be the center of powerful magnetic energies, whose life each living thing depended upon. Sun rays are the gift of the Great Spirit, giving life and radiance to all of nature. Pachamama is both divine and sacred. She is composed of the 5 elements of moon, earth, sun, water, and air. All learning begins from within. Learning, knowing, respecting oneself. Everything we see around us comes from Pachamama, the Mother Earth. And the invisible comes from the Father Creator, the soul and spirit. Therefore, we must devote our lives to Mother Nature and Father Creator, venerating them and living according to their laws. We have received our physical bodies from Mother Earth and our spiritual body from our Father Creator. Each day we give thanks to the Creator and Mother Earth for our corn and for the work of the nature spirits. Pachamama is our paradise, our glory, and our final place of rest. All people everywhere are children of God, one mother and one father, and therefore we are all brothers and sisters. How happy our parents would be if they could see their children living in peace, naturally, in harmony, according to the laws of nature. When we recognize and respect our natural mother and father, then we are blessed by them and receive their protection from all evil. The return of Inti Churi Kuna brings messages of peace, love, and spiritual liberation from our Father Creator Pachamama, from the center of the sun to all people everywhere. The sun illuminates our lives, and through the power of this light, we reach the Father Creator. Many Incas incarnated spiritually from the heart of the sun and worked within the laws of Wilki Anina, the sacred fire. With love we have come, and with love we have reached God. We must return to the ways of nature and recognize that we are part of the sun, moon, earth, water, and air. That Mother Nature is within us and we within her. Each of our lives are divine temples of the Mother Nature and Father Creator. We must return to spiritual principles for our guidance. We must return to the ways of nature, recognizing the earth as our sacred living mother. She knows that we are sick, victims of our egotism, and wanting to heal us with her natural medicines of pure air, clean water, fertility, and solar rays. We must return to the ways of nature and the ways we live each day, eating and drinking naturally fresh foods and drinks without chemicals, avoiding alcohol and drugs which confuse, dull, and degenerate the mind and the body. Mother Nature provides us with the natural foods, beverages, and medicines beneficial to our health and long life free of disease. The plastic culture is a passing fashion, which will soon subside with the renewal of the spiritual consciousness of the natural solar culture. We must return to the ways of nature and remove the negativity in our lives, the egotism which blinds us to the beauty of the natural way. Our sleeping consciousness must awaken. Pachamama, Mother Earth, has great sorrow and cries for us. She sees our ignorance, how we are lost in darkness, destroying out of balance, killing one another. We will only find solutions to our problems when we return again to the natural way. This is the prophecy that was given to us for the last years, giving us the opportunity to save ourselves. Our present era is that of Ayar Oka, the era of iron and wars, of coldness of metal. There is no love. The Western world looks to the atomic god and science, both in fear and for its salvation. The so-called civilized ones are suffering an atomic hell. The Intik Churikuna offers love. We must return to the ways of nature to receive illumination, to recognize the cosmic laws and our bodies as temples. When we return to the natural way, the sun way, we will obtain a great spiritual treasure. The door of the sun is open for all. It shines upon all. All blood is the same color, the color of living fire. We are as flowers of different colors, different aromas. We are brothers and sisters of the seven rays. All of the nations of the world from the beginning have had the same natural flag, Kuiche, the rainbow. Her seven colors unify all nations of God, past, present, and future. Since ancient times, there have been sagras, negative and destructive energies, but they lived subject to the Creator and under the control of the children of the sun, for they have limited power. Since pre-Inca times, the sagras were well controlled because the people lived in harmony under the laws of Ama Lula, Ama Quea, and Amu Sua. With the Spanish invasion, the sagras were liberated and became allies of the conquerors. This alliance of black forces subjugated and persecuted the children of the sun, eliminating the wise ones. At this time, the puma in the temple of the sun died, vomiting, because he had seen the truth and recognized the darkness of the invaders. Many, however, were able to escape the dark shadow creeping across the land and remove themselves and the sacred energy to the jungle, helped by the angels. Here presently, they still live among the enchanted lakes and mountains. Incan prophecy holds that with the arrival of the Europeans, there would be 500 years of spiritual darkness. The world would plunge into materialism. Imbalance would permeate the planet. But after 500 years of darkness, when the condor of the south met the eagle of the north, it would signal the return of light to the planet and the dawn of a golden era. We live in a time of the fulfillment of prophecy. The children of the sun have existed since ancient times, since the golden era. After the golden era came the silver era, then the bronze, then the iron. The present era consisting of the last 1,000 years. This last metallic era has a strong materialistic quality and has been an era of darkness as people have fallen into egotism, using the forces of Mother Nature in a negative way. Our ancient ancestors had a more defined road with a more concrete, clear, and practical way of life. In the golden era, the cosmic light of the spiritual sun guided the people with the natural laws in harmony, respect, peace, and love. Now, in these last years of the Iron Age, all is out of balance, chaotic, in disorder, and disintegration. The political philosophies of the right and left from Western Europe culture cannot provide a solution because they are spiritually destitute, as is the age of iron. Even as there are 4 seasons of the year, so the 4 great cosmic ages follow one another. The age of iron, like a long winter, is now closing. The new golden age, like spring, is announcing itself throughout the world. Here in the Andes, we the Incas remember the spiritual teachings which have survived, for there are many ancient remote villages in the mountains just as there are in the Amazon. This awakened spiritual consciousness, like a beacon of light, shines from the mountains across the world, announcing the arrival of the new era, the golden era of harmony with nature, of peace, brotherhood, spiritual liberation, and love. So, you may open your eyes and I hope that how it lands with you is actually prophesizing a message of hope, a message of enlightenment and elevation. Because truly we are in the changing times. The white buffalo calf and the white buffalo calf prophecy, speaks to it. It says very specifically, you will know the changing times are upon you when there is born a white buffalo calf. You will know it is the changing times because on the day of its birth, the father will die, evidencing the death of the patriarchal system and the rebirth of the matriarchal system. You will know this is the changing times because the white buffalo calf will change all colors of humanity and then go back to white. And on August the 20th, 1994, in Janesville, Wisconsin, was born a white buffalo calf. And the father died of a brain aneurysm on the day of its birth. And it changed all colors of humanity. And the people who owned the white buffalo calf called all the elders in from Lakota, from Hopi, from everywhere, the Mayan, and they all came. Because in 1994, it was an announcement of the changing times being upon you. And here you are. You're in the changing times. And what is it that we do? And this is the challenge to all of us as humanity. Whether this, I have political views in relation to why this is visited upon us, but I only cast those aside for the moment and say, it is here and it is part of the changing times. When we move from one age to another, from the Iron Age to the Golden Age, there is a purification. And that purification occurs so that the Mother Earth can accommodate the energy of the new era. I'm going to be so bold as to say that each and every one of you, before you came into this physical incarnation, made an agreement that you would be here during this time. And that you would be in a position to be a holder of the light, to be capable of demonstrating to all of humanity from your own example, the journey that you take within, that you're able to cast to those outside. Now, what I would like to do is I'm going to ask that we now go in to a silent meditation. It's going to be about 15 minutes. I've got my timer so that I can time everyone and I will bring us back. And it's something that has been taught to us by our teacher, Willa Ruwaita. In the indigenous tradition and in all sorts of traditions worldwide, there are many ceremonies and rituals performed by Hindus, by Buddhists, by Christians, by Mohammed, by all of the religions, the Jewish religions. Everyone has their traditions and ceremonies and relics and all sorts of things, and sacred texts. And as Willaroo says, all of the religions are sewn like diamonds on the rosary of the world. And all of the sacred scriptures, when you read them and look at them, you will come to realize, say the same thing. All about elevation and all about the soul and spirit. And what Willaroo pointed out to us here, that Mother Earth represents the material and gives us our body. And Father Creator gives us our spirit body. And this is the marriage of matter and spirit. And in the world that we live in, the biggest problem is that spirit has been taken out of the equation. So that what we're doing here is we're making a dedication to our own commitment to our relationship with spirit. So Willaroo says, of all of the ceremonies and rituals throughout the world, there's really one ceremony that if you all were completely familiar with it, then you could do it all the time, anywhere you were. Because as he says, the Father is here in the third eye, and that's wisdom, and the Mother is here in your heart, and that's love. And so love, wisdom is within each and every one of us. And our Mother and Father are present in our being. And so Willaroo says, for this ceremony, imagine in the temple of your heart that the goddess is there awaiting you. And in this particular meditation that we're going to have right now, I want you to visualize in the temple of your heart the Mother Goddess who is there at the altar with a fire. And she's going to take from you all of your worry, anxiety, frustration, any feeling that you have that falls under the fear syndrome, and you're going to take the burning as evidence of the love that exudes from your heart chakra. So in this meditation, we are doing the fire ceremony of the heart. We are visualizing in our heart the temple of the goddess of love that resides there, your true mother. And you are going to bring to your true mother all of these things that you feel are negative. You're going to ask her to place it on the altar and burn it. You can give her a piece of paper if you will. And so when I start this meditation, I'm going to say 3 ohms, and I will end this meditation with 3 ohms. And in your meditation, should you find your mind wandering, just say Om, and you'll find yourself back in the temple of the heart. Om. Om. Well, it's fantastic and a beautiful experience to meditate together with each of our minds joining in a veneration of the Mother Goddess that resides within each of us. I highly recommend you find the book, A Goddess Among Us. If anyone has any difficulty finding it, I know I found it on Kindle. I've got it on my iPad. It's a very uplifting read, especially during these times. As Willaroo would say, in this meditation of the fire ceremony, we have joined our hearts together and our minds together to bring about elevation. This is the festival known as Ascension. And as I've said on Easter Good Friday, I'll be doing a seminar on death and resurrection. And going into this concept of ascension, you should know that the Sacred Valley in Cusco, Peru, really the Sacred Valley begins just outside of Cusco and goes all the way to Machu Picchu. But really, if you look at a map, you'll see that Ottawa and goes in a direct line right through to where Guy is in Florida, a straight line right to Peru. And so that actually you're in the corridor of the Sacred Valley. And from this corridor, you can make your way to Machu Picchu in your mind, in your meditation, because Machu Picchu is known as the University of Ascension. During the Inca times, students were placed in mystery schools. They now call them ruins, but then they were mystery schools where they taught spiritual teachings to young men and women at the age of 16. And they would go up and down the valley to different mystery schools, being instructed in spiritual knowledge. And then they would make their way to Machu Picchu when they were around 44 years of age, for the ceremony of the University of Ascension, because they had raised their consciousness to such a level from the spiritual teachings and the spiritual practices that this is where their graduation occurred. And of course, when the Spaniards came, they specifically came to extinguish that light. So I'm going to end this session. First thing I want to leave you with is I want to leave you with a mantra. And I want to leave you with this mantra simply from the perspective of being a guide and a place of comfort for everyone. And it was one that is quite well known and taught to me quite a few years back. But it's Om Mani Padme Hum. And I was taught a particular way to pronounce it. Padme is spelled Padme, but I was told to pronounce it Padme. And the which is Hum, I was told to pronounce like Ing or Hung, so that the mantra sounds more like this. Om Mani Padme Hum. And what you'll feel is right in the nose, like right here in almost to the third eye. You'll feel the vibration in your throat right up to here with the ing, because of the G sound at the end of the word ing. And it's a wonderful mantra to put into your spiritual quiver. And it means the jewel in the lotus. And when you're saying it, contemplate yourself as the jewel in the lotus. Om Mani Padme.
Om Mani
Beautiful, beautiful. Om Mani Padme. Ing. So you feel that ing sound here in the third eye. Now, I'm ending this session, but just to say to you, things that I mentioned in terms of books, teachings, mantras, aphorisms, whatever I mentioned that I think you might be interested in, I will post. We're in the throes of creating a website for Mystery School. Greg Van Asperen and Willaroo and I are presently working on putting this website together for Mystery School. We will be able to share that with everyone when it's available. There we will be posting teachings of Willaroo, mantra, all of these things that will assist everyone in this time of isolation. So I'm going to end the session with first the great invocation, and then finally the mantra of unification. Both of these prayers, again, I highly recommend to your incorporation, if you will, into your own spiritual practice. Both of these prayers I say every day without fail. They're ancient Sanskrit prayers that have a vibration to them, which is deep and profound. In the first mantra, Great Invocation, the reference to Christ is to the Christ consciousness. And the Inca understand Christos to be the sun, to be the energy of the sun, and the sacred beings that reside in the sun. And so this is why all indigenous people are sun worshipers. The sun dance, for instance, is very much tied to the drama of the crucifixion of the Master Jesus and the resurrection. The Great Invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men, let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of man, may Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the place we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. The mantra of unification. The sons and daughters of men and women are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all humanity love. Namaste.
Namaste.
What is being visited upon us now is humanity's karma. Humanity's karma comes about by virtue of our misuse of our relationship of Mother Nature and our forgetting of our relationship to Spirit. What is upon us is changing time for the better. And as we put ourselves into this knowing, we pursue with thirst the wisdom that will prevail over the darkness that has been visited on humanity. In the same way that this is our karma, we can work through it by virtue of our relationship to Spirit. So I say, deepen that relationship. And from here, this is what we hope to do is to be of service to humanity in order to allow for the understanding of the wisdom. There are 3 halls on the Mother Earth. There is the hall of ignorance, there is the hall of knowledge, and there is the hall of wisdom. All of us have been in all these halls. Emerging from the law of ignorance, we find the door of the hall of knowledge. And after we've learned what we need to learn, we find the hall of wisdom. And there we are on the path. So I say thank you to everyone for joining this evening. This is the type of exercise that we will engage in for the 3 festivals, the 2 coming up, the one in May and the one in June. And I will continue to link to everyone the teachings that we will be doing. And of course, the next one is Good Friday. If you have any questions about anything, please just email me, spiritualelders@hotmail.com, and I'll answer your questions. I love you all very much. Namaste.
Namaste.